This might be the most underrated effect in After Effects, and almost nobody's using it. I'll show you how to use it by recreating this NBA on ESPN graphic, and stick around to the end. I'll also show you a super underrated shape layer property that most people overlook. And if you're into sports graphics or want to level up your skills, definitely check out my Sports Motion Graphics Masterclass. The waitlist link is in the description. Amigos, let's get started. And the first step is to create the basic structure of our text animation. So we'll go to the composition icon, create a new comp, and we'll call it text animation, and we'll make it 500 by 500 pixels. In this case, 23.976, and a duration of 5 seconds long. Now let's go to the text tool, type in your text. I'm gonna type in Miami Dolphins, and there's actually a rumor that they'll be using the Miami Vice colors in their uniforms for one of the games. I don't know if it's true, it's just a rumor that's going out. So we're gonna put Miami Dolphins in these Miami Vice colors. Now, let's go to the character panel or the properties where we can see the text. I'm using this font. It's an Adobe font, so you should have access if you're using Adobe Creative Cloud. Dharma Gothic Condensed. I like using a condensed version, especially if you're using a long text, but feel free to use your own font. Let's go back. And right now the font size is 90. The vertical scale is 95. Everything else should be at the default values. Now, what's really important, however, is the paragraph. You have a couple options. You can do left, center adjust, and right. Now, depending on which one of these you select, and if you add the tracking, which we will in this tutorial, it'll make a difference. Now, for this tutorial, we'll keep it simple. We'll keep it left align. Now, the next step is we want to place the anchor point right in the center. Now, I have this utility tool that will do it for you. You can use your own, but the keyboard shortcut is Alt-Control-Home, and that will place the anchor point right in the center. And I believe on an Apple computer, it's Command-Control-Home. All right. The next step, hit Control-R, Command-R to bring up the rulers for the comp. Let's create two guides. This one will be at 250. And let's create one more guide, and the second one will make it, let's right click, edit position, and let's make it 250. All right, make sure that you have snap to guides turned on. Go to the selection tool and let's snap it right in the center. Now the next step is let's create that circle, because we want to place our text in a circle. So head over to the shape tool, make sure that you have the ellipse tool selected, your text selected. I'm going to make this screen bigger so you can see it. Now what we're going to do is go to the center of the composition and let's create a circle. Now, if you hold on to Control Shift, it'll create a perfect circle from the center. And I believe on an Apple computer, it's Command Shift. So we'll make it about this size. We can always change it if we want later on. All right, let's go back to the timeline. For the mask, let's switch it to none. And for the text, drill down, go to path options. And for the path, we want to select that mask that we just created. So go to mask 1. Okay, it's in the circle, but we want it on the outside. So go to reverse path, switch it to on, and there you have it. Now, we can work with the first margin. Last margin won't take effect because we're using the left align. So you won't have to worry. If you have it in the center, you'll have first margin and last margin to play with. But for this one, let's keep it simple. First margin, we'll give it a value of about 90. Make sure that the CTI is at the beginning. Let's add a keyframe. Let's go forward to about frame 16. And then let's modify this so it goes to the opposite side. Right around here. Right around 5. Let's see, 500. No, let's make it 510. Okay. I'm going to add easy ease, F9. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the value graph and make sure that you are in the value graph. I'm going to select this first keyframe. I'm going to move this handle up, select the second keyframe, move this handle, and let's check it out. Perfect. Now let's add some tracking to our text. To add tracking, go to your text, select it, go to animate, and let's add tracking. What that will do is it'll add a per character animator. However, we're not going to use a per character animator using the range selector. What we'll do instead is just keep it very simple. Let me go back to this and just animate the tracking amount. So move your CTI to the beginning, go to the tracking amount, add a keyframe. We'll go halfway to 212. We'll give it a value of about 5. And then go all the way to the end and we'll make this 0. So we're going from 0 to 5 down to 0 again. Okay, what I'm going to do is add easy ease, and then I'll jump one more time into the valley graph, select the middle keyframe, and we just want more hang time. So I'm going to grab these handles and just move them like this. So we have this nice curve, and it'll give us more hang time right around that middle keyframe. All right, so this is a basic structure of our text animation. The next step is creating the time displacement. To do that, we'll create a new composition, and this one will be time displacement. We'll make it 1920 by 1080 and keep everything exactly the same. Hit OK. Let's bring in our text animation, and let's create a solid layer. Control Y, Command Y. Make comp size, the color doesn't matter, hit OK. Now this layer, let's rename it to map. And I'm going to place it at the bottom of the layer stack. Now let's add 2 effects. Let's add gradient ramp. Let me make the screen a little bigger so you can see what's going on. And what we'll do is we'll switch it to radial ramp. We'll swap the colors. Let me zoom out. And the start of the ramp, we want to move this point right in the center. So it'll be 960 by 540. The end of the ramp, this point right here, we're going to move it to the corner, which will be 1920 by 1080. Okay, now let's add another effect. And this one will be posterize. And you can see that now it's creating these concentric circles. And this is exactly what we want to feed into the time displacement effect. Now, there's one thing that I want to tell you about the time displacement is that it works with a grayscale image, an image that has white, grays, and black. Now, by default, the time displacement, when it sees white, it'll move your animation 1 second ahead of time. Where it sees black, where your animation is on areas of black, it'll give you a 1 second delay by default. Now, if it sees 50% gray, that means that your animation will start right exactly where it should, right where your keyframes are placed. And that's really what we want. We want to start from gray, 50% gray to black, because we don't want this to start ahead of time. We want it to start right exactly where we're animating our text. So what we'll do is for the start color, instead of white, I'm going to go in and for RGB, 128, 128, and 128 should give us 50% gray. Now when we do this, we have less concentric circles. So it's simple. Go to the levels and let's just increase this. The sweet spot is 17, 18, 20. You can play around with it. Obviously, it's up to you, amigos. You can create more. This is totally up to you. For now, I'm going to keep it at 18. And what I'm going to do is go down to the text animation, hit S for scale. I'm going to scale it up and place it right here. And let me go back to the map. Let me see if I make it 17. Let's make it 17 so I can scale this a little smaller. Perfect. Make it 160. Now, since I'm scaling it up, it's going to basically rasterize it. We want to continuously rasterize it. It will always have its vector format. In order to do that, we need to go here where it says collapse transformation, turn that on, and we're all set. All right. From here, it's going to be rinse and repeat. Simply make copies, Control D, Command D, go to the scale, S for scale, and just scale it up. And now let's add an adjustment layer. Go up to layer, new, go to adjustment layer, and this will be our time displacement. Now let's add the effect. And the first thing is asking for that map. So we have our map, which is layer 7. So let's go down to layer 7, select layer 7, map. And we need, this is very important, we need to select effects and mask because we added 2 effects to our map. Okay, now like I mentioned, by default, it's 1 second, but you can change that to any other number. We'll leave it at 1 second. 1 to 2 seconds is a good sweet spot. And for time resolution, I'm gonna match this to the frame rate, which is basically 24. I'm using 23976. We'll just make it 24. And let's play it back so you can see what's going on. There you go, amigos. So you can see that in each concentric circle, that's where it's basically going to give you that delay. So if you want more circles, if we make this 25, we go back, you're going to have more sections. Now let's go back to 17. And this is something that you can play around with a number of levels for posterize, along with the size of your text and obviously the vertical scale. So those are 3 different properties that you might have to just go back and forth and tweak to get the right exact numbers to give you the perfect effect that you're looking for. So those are 3 numbers: the size of the font, the vertical scale is another number that I would play with, and the level for the posterize. All right, now what we want to do is one more thing for the adjustment layer. We want half of this. So what I'm gonna do is to cut it in half, I'm gonna add the linear wipe, and I'm gonna make this -90 and transition completion at 50. And if I toggle that transparency grid, we're only using half. This is exactly what we want. Now what we need to do is hide the map. We don't need the map. The map is already being fed through the time displacement effect. And number 2 is for you to visually see what the time displacement effect will do. All right, from here, let's build the rest of our text animation. So what I'm gonna do is grab this composition time displacement, bring it to the comp icon, and this will be, let's call it GFX final text animation. Okay, so we have half of it, right? What we can do now is make a copy, go to S for scale, unlink it, and make it -100. So now we have a mirror copy. And what we can do is we can bring the solid layer, add a gradient, and I'm gonna swap the colors, make it radial, bring this down, move this to the edge. And what I'm gonna do is copy this. Let's copy this color. So I'm gonna copy this color. Copy this color. And let's bring it in here. Let's plug it in, and I'm gonna bring it down. Okay. Now notice that the very first couple frames, we're probably gonna need to start around frame 8. This will depend on your animation, but it won't start right at the beginning. So what you can do is you simply, right here at frame 7 or 8, in this case, I can hit B for Bravo to set the work area to start right here. From here, we can decorate it, amigos. We can add different effects. What I'm gonna do is go ahead, make sure that all your layers are deselected. Actually, let's call this BG for background, deselect, go back to the ellipse tool. Now, since all the layers are deselected, and if we use this, this will now be a shape layer. So let's double click. You can see shape layer. Let's take away the stroke for this one. Go down to the ellipse path, and let's make it 400 by 400. Perfect. And then what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and let me grab this color. Let me plug it in. Perfect. Okay, we're going to call this circle matte. And then I'm going to go to the fins logo, and I have the Miami Dolphins logo as a shape layer. You don't have to have it as a shape layer. You can have it as a PNG, as a vector. In this case, I already have it as a shape layer, so I'm going to plug it in. And then simply what I'm going to do is using track matte, let's point it to the circle matte. So it's inside the circle. You see, it's inside the circle. And in this case, I want to see the circle as well. So I'm going to go back and unhide it and go to the logo. I'm going to scale this down even more, but it is right here. Okay, so we'll leave the logo where it is. Now, one of the things that I noticed in the ESPN graphic is they have a lot of little circles just spreading out, kind of like a record, like a vinyl record. So we'll create that. Let's go to the circle matte, make a copy, and let's place it at the bottom of the layer stack. And we'll call it circle copies. For now, I'm going to solo this layer. I'm going to take out the fill, and I'm going to add a stroke, and I'm going to make it a dark gray and give it a value anywhere between 2 or 3 pixels. Let's make it 3 for now. Okay, here it is. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make copies of this. Instead of using the repeater, I'm going to use offset path. And from here, I'm going to go to the number of copies, give it to start out with a value of 50, and there you go. Now we want to give it more distance between each of the lines or each of the circles, so we'll go to the amount and let's make it 15. 15 or 20 is a good number. Let's keep it at 20. So this is looking pretty good. We can add a bevel alpha, and we can add a Gaussian blur, maybe 3 pixels for the blurriness. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. Now we need to bring this on top of our background layer, and let's create a rim for our circle matte. So let's go to the circle matte, make a copy, Control D, Command D, place it on the top of the layer stack, call it circle rim, and then instead of a fill, I'm only going to use a stroke, give it a value of 30. Now, when you do that, it's being placed right in the center, and we want to go inside the circle. So I'm going to show you how to do that. What we'll do is we'll use offset path again, but in a different way. Now, what we'll do is simply for the amount, we'll make it, since it's 30 pixels, we want half of that, which is 15. So we'll make it minus 15, and it'll push that inside the circle. Now from here, I'm going to add the 4-color gradient, and let's just place these points right here. And feel free to give it different colors, amigos. This is something totally up to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this black. The screen, we can make it cool. We can make it pink. And then 0.3, make it black. Actually, color 4, make it black. So I can do something like this. But to keep it generic, let's make it gray. Let's make it look metallic. So this will give you a cool metallic look if you want. And from here, what we can do is we can add, I would add a bevel alpha, and then definitely highlight the color of the team. We can increase the thickness to maybe 4. Let me hide the controls and just play around. You can play around with the light angle as well. See the intensity. I guess we can leave it at 0.4. Okay. And for the Miami Dolphins logo, I'm going to scale it down a little more. And we can animate, obviously animate the logo. They were animating the logo from down up. And in this case for the Dolphins, I'm going to animate it since it makes sense, I think, animating from the edge right around here on the left edge. And what I'll do is go to the position, add a keyframe, go to 1 second, and then just move this. Let's add some easy ease. And then let's jump into this case. We're going to need to jump into the speed graph. And what I'm going to do is move this all the way up, move this like this, keep moving this up. There we go. So we have this nice shape, this curve, and let's check it out. Nice. Now from here, we can add light leaks, we can add some smoke. And this time displacement, since it's only 1 second long, I would probably only use this for about maybe go all the way up to 3 or 312. So it's up to you, but this is meant to be a very short animation, maybe a couple seconds, then you would cut to a different animation. But this is the basic structure foundation on how to create this effect using this really underused, undervalued effect, which is a time displacement. And remember, amigos, that life is truly a gift. Make it count.